So MIT is made out of a couple of departments. The ones that are most relevant to computer science, I guess, include like the School of Engineering and the Schwarzman College of Computing. The College of Computing was actually a new kind of department that was established while I was at MIT. So I think it was around like 2017, 2018. Don't quote me on that, but basically we recognized the need for a specific department regarding computer science because it is such a field that is growing very rapidly and that we wanted more resources for. But then again, like I will say that MIT, even though a lot of our students do end up being computer science, we also have really great opportunities in other departments and majors. Like for example, I think we actually have the #1 creative writing department in the US. That's like something that not that many people know of. We also have great like architecture and management schools as well. So you can see those departments all have their own pros and cons. Yeah, so in general, while I was at MIT, here is a quick day of my life. Personally, different people do different things. For me personally, I would spend most of my time probably like working, going to classes and recitations. Recitations are basically classes, except instead of the professor lecturing at you, you have like teaching assistants who hold smaller sections where you can go over the concepts learned in the lectures and practice together. So it creates a more personalized environment. And problem sets, obviously the homework that we would do. However, I also did plenty of stuff outside of just work and school. For example, I personally love running, so I would go to the gym every day. I miss the gym a lot nowadays. I have to run outside. It's not as fun, unfortunately. I do my fair share of extracurricular clubs. So for example, I did both coding related ones as well as non-coding related ones. For the coding related ones, they included things like MIT Code It, which was a program in which I was a mentor for some middle school and high school girls around the Boston area. So we would meet every Saturday and teach them how to code in Python and Scratch. I also was part of the machine intelligence community, which is MIT's biggest undergraduate machine learning, deep learning related club. Also, I was part of MIT Code for Good, which is a club in which we work to pair MIT students with nonprofits in the Boston area. And then basically these students will provide pro bono services to create technology that will help the nonprofits. So it's kind of a win-win, like we do something good for the nonprofits and the students get something, like they get some experience in return. So that's like something that I did that was coding related. In terms of non-coding related, I was in a sorority, I was in an a cappella group, so I love singing. I used to play like a lot of IM sports for fun. So I play IM volleyball, once soccer, usually not soccer. I play volleyball, tennis, and foosball. And other clubs included, I ran MIT Model UN for a while. So I actually went to South Korea and China with Model UN for various competitions and hosting conferences, which was a big highlight of my MIT experience. And lastly, back to coding related clubs, I also was part of a club called Beautiful Patterns, which in Spanish is Patrones Hermosos. So basically, this was a program in which I went to Mexico for a week at the end of my junior year summer. And I taught some middle school girls there the basics of computer science. And that was really, really fun and really rewarding. So yeah, various clubs, some of them coding not related or non-coding related. Obviously, eating food is important. I generally don't eat breakfast or lunch, but that's because I personally have a weird eating schedule. And occasionally I go to parties or like fraternity or sorority formals, and those are always like fun events where you get to dress up and look pretty, and it's a lot of fun. Yeah, so let's move on to class size. So MIT prides itself on quite small classes, which provide a more personalized experience. As you can see in this graph, most classes, like the vast majority, 70.8% have fewer than 20 students, and only 12.4 have 50 or more. So this makes it so there is oftentimes a very good ratio between professors and students, or teaching assistants, lab assistants, and students. I personally was part of this program in freshman first year called Experimental Learning Community, ESG, where we took some of our general education requirements like physics and biology, chemistry in really small classes. So my, for example, chemistry class was no more than 11 people, I remember. So it provided a really, really good experience for me to have a very personalized way to be able to interact with my fellow students as well as with my professors, which was very valuable, especially because that was my first semester at college and I wanted, I guess, more support. So I really appreciate that MIT has these programs. But even if you're not in the one I was in, ESG, you still have very small classes, which are very easy to get help, very easy to go to office hours and things like that. So yeah, 3-to-1 student faculty ratio, which I think is very good for a university. Yeah, so MIT offers a variety of undergraduate degrees. So the one we're going to focus on today, which is the one I did, is Electrical Engineering and Computer Science, course 6. So something fun about MIT is we refer to a lot of things using numbers rather than just words. So basically, when you go to talk to most people at MIT, instead of saying like, oh, I study biology, or oh, I study like EECS, or oh, I study material science, they'll say, oh, I'm course 6, oh, I'm course 7, or oh, I'm course 3. So just like easier. We also do this with buildings as well. For example, lobby 7 is, if you know the, I guess the very iconic dome, that's all, we just call it lobby 7. I don't actually know what the actual building number is. We call, for example, like the one with all the language classes, we'll call like building 14, things like that. So yeah, I'll refer, when I talk about the more specific majors in these particular courses, I'll definitely say the number as well as the name for convenience. Yeah, so yeah, MIT has 22 of them. Those are the listed ones. I will talk about EECS, course 6. Yeah, so MIT offers 7 interdisciplinary undergraduate degrees. So the ones that are in yellow are the ones that have to do with computer science, course 6. As you can see, out of these and out of the other ones, course 6, computer science has a lot of interest in being a interdisciplinary undergraduate degree. That's why a lot of us happen to be computer science of some flavor. So chemistry and biology is the first I guess, computer science one. It is like, yeah, course 5-7, because chemistry is 5, biology is 7. It's offered by departments of chemistry and biology. I have a couple of friends who did this major. They generally are people who want to be pre-med or people who want to go to grad school for chemistry, in my opinion. Next one is computation and cognition. This is course 6-9, because computer science 6 and neuroscience is 9. Yeah, so brain and cognitive science is 9. That one is a relatively new one. I believe it was established either 2 years ago or last year. Next one is computer science and molecular biology. This one is 6-7. This one is quite popular. I actually considered declaring this one because a lot of people, including me, went into MIT wanting to study biology and then decided to pivot. So this allows you to pivot to computer science while still sticking with some of your biology roots, which is pretty cool. Another really new one is 6-14, which is urban science and planning with computer science. 6-11, because urban science is 11. So this is also a really cool one. I have a lot of friends who are course 11 urban science, and they were really happy when this one was introduced because that allowed them to, instead of having to get another minor in computer science, to kind of combine it together for one major. Next, we have 6-14, which is computer science, economics, and data science, also quite new. So this one allows you to do computer science with more focus on like economics or management and data science, because there are a lot of classes that I think are deeply overlapping. I know that computer science and economics used to be one of the most popular double majors at MIT. Other popular double majors included computer science and management, and I think the most popular one was computer science and math, for probably self-explanatory reasons. Next, humanities is another interdisciplinary degree program. So yeah, it's offered by the Department of Humanities, has 6 fields of study. Yeah, like I mentioned, we actually have quite strong humanities, even though I know MIT isn't known for our humanities. And related to this, humanities and engineering, this is usually 21S, course 21S. So this one is one where you take usually like something like computer science or mechie and combine it with something in humanities. So for example, one of my good friends is 21 S6, which is, he is mostly humanities, but also like half and half humanities and computer science. So he's doing an education degree, kind of like an education and computer science degree combined. And it's working very well for him. Yeah, so specific to EECS, the department, we offer 6 undergraduate majors. So I'll go over I'll go over these a bit. I know I did mention most of these previously. So first is electrical engineering. This is 6-1. This is the EE part of EECS. It's not as popular as some of the other majors that I know of, but there are a lot of classes that you can take, and you can also take electrical engineering classes if you're not going to be pure electrical engineering. So MIT is really good in that we have a lot of flexibility in what classes you are allowed to take to fulfill your requirements. So that means that even if you just want to be, for example, computer science engineering, you can still take a lot of electrical engineering classes. And that's what some of my friends do. I'll say that I personally never took electrical engineering classes because I was never that good at electrical engineering, but I digress. The second one is electrical engineering and computer science degree, which is 6-2. This one is kind of like EECS, right? So this one is more if you don't really want to focus on specifically E or CS, you can combine it and do something in the middle. Again, lots of choices, an excellent choice. Still not as most people are computer science engineering, but still there's quite a few people who are in this track. So yeah, third is computer science engineering. This is 6-3. This is what most of the computer science majors at MIT are. This is what I was 6-3. This one, again, you can do what I did, not take any EE classes. You can also take quite a few EE classes, totally dependent on what you want and totally dependent on what you want to do, what you want to learn, what you want to do in the future. Yeah, fourth one is computer science and molecular biology, 6-7. Again, this is what a lot of people do if they come in wanting to be biology, or if they come in wanting to be computer science, but then decide biology is cool as well. There's a lot of cool computational biology parts of computer science that are really cool. And I know there's a lot of awesome research being done in this joint major. So really, really cool major. Fifth one is 6-14, the one I mentioned before. Again, pretty popular, especially among the newer classes, because I think 6-14, economics and computer science used to be a very popular major. So this is the opportunity to do that into one major. Finally, computers, computation, and cognition, 6-9 is also a new interdisciplinary degree and is also quite popular. Again, it is with computer science and with the Department of Brain and Cognitive Science. Yeah. So yeah, what exactly is, I guess, computer science? I'll go a bit more into what specifically computer science is, as well as what specifically 6-7, the biology one, and 6-14, the economics and data science one entails. Yeah, so basically computer science, a lot of what we deal with is optimization. Definitely you have your data science and algorithms. You also can learn like how to make computers, how to like build computers, how to like use assembly, what circuits are, things like that. So there's, yeah, a lot of modeling, a lot of abstraction. We also have some specific machine learning courses as well. We have like system design classes. So I would say that we have quite a varied listing of courses you can take, but of course you can definitely tailor your journey, your classes to the ones that interest you more. So for example, like I never really did that much regarding like lower level programming. So I never really did like, you know, C or C++, things like that. I mostly stuck to things like data visualization, like I did some ML, and I did some like Bayesian modeling, things like that, which I personally thought was really, really cool. Yeah, next is computer science and molecular biology. Like I mentioned before, there's a lot of really cool aspects and really cool applications in this field. So for example, pharmaceuticals, bioinformatics, and medicine is really nice and a really good career opportunity. I also know quite a few of my pre-med friends were computer science and molecular biology because that allowed them to still take some of like the computer science classes that they really were interested in while still making sure that they took all the classes required to take the MCAT. So it's a really good choice in my opinion. And thirdly, we have the economics and data science CS classes major. So yeah, this is really quite new, but yeah, it involves a lot of like data processing, a lot of data science, obviously, a lot of like basically processing a lot of data, I would say, for this particular major. So this is quite appealing to people who do like I guess, computational economics, for lack of a better term. Yeah, so I will talk a bit about some of the more intro courses in computer science now. So in the introductory level, there are these 5 classes. Like I mentioned, we usually refer to them like 6111 versus the long word, the long title of them. So basically, these, not all of them, you don't have to take all of them, you just have to take up to 12 units of them to fulfill these like basic requirements. I personally took 6111 and 6222 before I even knew I wanted to be computer science. I just thought they seemed like cool classes, and a lot of people do the same. I took personally 601. 602 and 608 are more EE heavy. So if you do want to take something more like lower level, then just 6-3 stereotypical classes definitely take 602. 608 is cool because it has a project aspect of it. So you can you spend the semester designing and building like a little custom project with a group. So it's a really good way for you to get project experience when you're just getting started in the field. Yeah, and then basic level, take up to 63 units of the following. So again, I didn't, which ones did I take? So I took 6004. I took 6036, which is not in this particular screenshot, but it's like, it's intro to machine learning. So it's kind of like 6034, just like a bit more, 6034 is a bit more theoretical. 6036 is a bit more practical. I took 6042 and what else did I take in this? Yeah, those are the ones I personally took. I think the most important classes that I would recommend for the intro classes is, I think 6042 is really important because it gives you a good math background into computer science. And 6006, which is not in this screenshot, but is intro to algorithms, is also really important because it doesn't matter really, like, I guess all the languages in computer science have some basic fundamentals, and those fundamentals are all covered in 6006 intro to algorithms. So that one is a must take for me. And also it does, the stuff that you learn in algorithms does appear in almost every coding interview that you do if you decide to be computer science and you decide to be a software engineer. So it's really useful, not just as a prereq for later classes, but also for your job in the future, as well as for interviewing for that job. Oops, sorry, let me try. Okay, so next I'll talk a bit about the application process to get into MIT. So yeah, we have 2 application cycles. We have early action and we have regular action. So a lot of schools do this. Essentially, early action is when you submit your application a bit earlier than, I believe most schools submit like end of December, like for regular, but for early, I didn't actually submit MIT early, so I'm not sure, but I want to say it's sometime in October or November. This basically makes it so that you get your decision, like if you get rejected or accepted or deferred in December, I believe. So deferred is when you don't get like a yes or no. They just take your application and then put it into the regular action pile. So you get to get your application reviewed a second time. And then regular action is, the normal one, like you submit, I believe January, and then you get the decision Pi Day, which is March 14th. That's the one I did. It's Pi Day Tau time, so March 14th because 3.14 Tau time, 6:28 Eastern. So yeah, Tau is 2 pi. So I think that's pretty cool. Yeah, but essentially, even though they are slightly different in the dates, there is no other difference. There is no advantage to applying early action or regular action. So there's no strategic benefit to applying for one over the other. Yeah, it's mostly like this says, just to spread out it a bit more. And basically for you, so if you have your tests and your application ready, you can decide to apply early so that if you do get in, you don't have the stress of like, maybe I have to apply to a lot of different schools, like all my safety schools, all of the schools, because I don't have anything that I got into already, versus like if you have already gotten in, that decreases the stress off of you. So yeah, I have a friend, for example, who MIT was her top choice. She got in early. So while I was writing like 10 different applications during winter break, she had accepted, I think, and was just chilling and didn't submit a single application for regular. So again, no strategic benefit, just do whatever is best for you, your situation, and your mental health, basically. Yeah, so what exactly does the application consist of? So it's pretty standard. There's, your biological information, like, where do you live? What are you? There's your academics, essays and activities, letters of recs, test scores, interview, and creative portfolio. So I'll go over a couple of these more in depth, but yeah. So academics. So this is what we want to see from all students who apply. So first, I will say I'm not international personally, but for internationals, we ask that you study 4 years of English, so at least to the calculus level of mathematics, 2 or more years of history/social studies, and biochem and physics. Yeah, so there are things when you get in called ASEs, which are advanced standing examinations, where you can use it to waive some like basic classes. So for example, if you've taken multi-var, we have a test, which if you take it, you can waive multi-var. I know a lot of international students generally do this because like usually they're really competitive when it comes to mathematics and they don't need to retake this class at all. I personally actually didn't waive it because even though I actually took the class in high school, I decided I wanted to like retake it just so I had a better grasp on like foundation on mathematics. But yeah, so just keep this in mind when you're planning your coursework. Basically just like have a solid background in all of these. I will say that I do know in like, for example, people who never took biology, chemistry, or physics and did fine because like there are intro classes that everyone must take about biology, chemistry, or physics. So the biology, chem, and physics aren't a hard requirement. Just like if you have the opportunity, definitely just try to get your foot, like you try to introduce yourself to those subjects. Yeah, so will you still require the SAT or the ACT? So again, like we have a very holistic approach when it comes to admissions, like having a certain SAT score, having a certain like GPA won't guarantee your acceptance, and not having those also won't deny your acceptance. However, we still will continue to require one of the two because like we believe they are still kind of predictive of like academic success in a bit, but we recognize there's flaws. So still just take them. It doesn't matter which one you take. It's kind of personal preference. I would say that for the ACT, I believe there's a science portion or like a portion that's more geared towards science. So I have a lot of friends who did take that. I personally took the SAT. I also think that I believe at least, okay, when I took the SAT, it was like 4 years ago. So I understand the essay is optional now, which it didn't used to be. But I would say that like for me, the SAT worked better because this is also back when vocabulary was a big deal in the SAT and I used to read a lot. So I got a fairly good score, never studied and was fine. But again, depends fully on personal preference if you want to take the SAT or the ACT. Yeah, so took the subject test. Can I submit your scores for consideration? So we are actually not considering SAT subject tests anymore. When I applied, we did, but apparently now we don't. Because like we do want to kind of encourage people to focus more on not testing and focus more on the other aspects of the application. So as of now, we're not going to consider any subject tests. So again, if you apply to other universities, still take the subject tests, just don't submit them for MIT specifically. Yeah, and this is the distribution of MIT admits in terms of SAT scores. So math SAT score. So as you can see, like we strongly encourage that you try to get within the 750 to 800 range if you can for the math one. And for the reading and writing one, again, we do recommend that you try to get within the, again, the 750 to 800 range. I guess like this isn't new, like just like try to score as best as you can. Again, like, scoring below that won't automatically fail you. It just obviously the probability is higher of you getting in if you score better. So just keep these in mind when taking these SAT tests. So for example, you can decide if you want to retake if you get a slightly lower score than what you wanted, or if you feel like it's good enough. These are just some numbers to keep in mind. And similarly for the ACT, generally try to score within 34 to 36 if you can. Take this into consideration when deciding if you want to retake the ACT at some point. Yeah, so besides test scores, obviously, which aren't everything, what else does MIT look for? So first and foremost, I think that MIT definitely does look for a collaborative and cooperative spirit. So this, like, we highly prioritize teamwork, highly prioritize working together. I know a lot of schools say this, but I will say personally that, like, at MIT, it's not a cutthroat culture whatsoever. People, honestly, like, a lot of my friends always would put aside their own work to help me if I was stuck on something, that then, like, I would sometimes put aside my own work to help my friends who are stuck on stuff. I think that's something that is a very common theme around the institute. I think it's something I'm very grateful for. Like, there was never any time in which, like, I felt that, like, anyone was trying to, like, undermine me. Like, we don't have a curve. It doesn't matter what other people score in your classes, as long as, like, your grade is determined by what you do. So that prevents a lot of, like, less cooperation, as I think some other universities might have. Also specific to, like, computer science, most companies, if you're going for self-engineering, and I think grad school is different, but if you're going for self-engineering after bachelor's, like, most companies don't care what your GPA is. So, like, having a bad grade, like, I may have scored not so good in some of my classes, like, honestly does not matter at all, to be honest. So I think that makes it a lot more chill, and that makes the environment super welcome. We also have a lot of resources for collaboration. So for example, like, we have, like, the office hours, where not just your teachers, but also fellow students who are in the office hours will help you. We also have, like, lounges, events, stuff like that, where you can, like, the course department will pay for us to, like, have food, sit together, and, like, work on something. Also, like, some, like, we have, like, startup accelerators, where if you have, like, a project that you want to actually get funded, and you want to actually, like, bring to the real world, there's lots of resources regarding those things. So, in a very collaborative environment, very, very supportive. Like, if you go to MIT, you'll never, I can guarantee you, like, there won't be people who want to, like, backstab you or anything like that. It's awesome there in terms of culture. Next, something that MIT does look for is initiative. So, like I mentioned, I think a lot of people, there's, like, a lot of people at MIT who are super passionate about things, and that does translate into a lot of people taking initiative. So again, we have a lot of opportunities. I mentioned, like, for example, those startup accelerators, you can get, like, seed money. I know specifically there are clubs that will give, I think, up to $1,000 to MIT students if they just want to do, like, a little project in their own time, like, not for class or anything, but they need more money. They can just write, like, a grant and get it. It's really easy to get undergraduate research opportunity positions, even if you have no experience. Like, for my first one, it was, like, freshman spring. I hadn't declared computer science by then, but I found a project that I liked, and I emailed the professor, and he was like, yeah, sure. Like, I know you don't have super much experience, but if you're willing to learn, I'm willing to take you. So I think that's something that is a recurring theme at MIT. Like, professors, like, people who write grants, just want to see that you want to get something done, even if you don't necessarily already have all of the requirements, or all of, like, the basic things for that. So yeah, definitely we have a lot of resources, but it's up to you to take advantage of them. So because of that, we do value people who seem like they will take initiative once they get here. Next, risk taking. So yeah, like, I think something that does set aside us, or does set aside a lot of us, is that, like, we're really not afraid to fail. Because again, the old saying, like, failure is the mother of success. I believe that's especially true. Like, you can't really succeed unless, like, you learn what it's like to, like, fail, to, like, get a bad grade, to try to do a project that fails, things like that. I think that's really important. And something that I personally learned is that, like, it doesn't matter how many technical interviews you fail, as long as you get one, that's all that matters, because you can't do, like, 10 interviews at the same time, 10 internships at the same time, right? So no one cares if you fail interviews. And it's just, like, a mental block that I think I experienced when I was a freshman. Like, I was afraid to apply to things because I was afraid I would get rejected, and I did get rejected from a lot of things. But yeah, like I think that MIT has taught me that risk taking is important and risk taking is useful, and there's nothing wrong with failing. And I think that I did have a bit of that going into MIT, which is, I guess, what the admissions officer saw in me. But I think MIT drew out that a lot while I was going through it. So just don't be afraid to fail. Failing is fine. Risk taking is awesome. And next we have intensity, curiosity, and excitement. So yeah, I think for me, I often wonder like why I got into MIT, and I've talked to a lot of my friends. They also wonder this. We don't really have an answer, but I think one thing that is true, that as far as I can see, for everyone that I know who's gotten MIT, is that we are immensely passionate about at least one particular thing, and that's like something that passion is something that we've held on to and that like we use or we manifest when we get there. So it doesn't even have to be academics related. Like it's not like you have to be like, I love computer science or I love biology. Like for me, it's actually like I loved running, and I wasn't really good at running, but I liked it. So I'd run every day. I wrote about that in my essay. That's like something I was really passionate about. Also, like I really liked like puzzle hunting, like doing like little like riddles and things like that. Again, it's not going to help me in any class whatsoever, but it is something that I really liked, and I found people at MIT who really liked. And we have this thing called MIT Mystery Hunt, which is like I think one of the biggest puzzle hunts in the world. It was virtual this year, of course, but generally it happens in January, and everyone goes in person on campus in non-COVID times, and like we solve puzzles and we try to find like a coin which represents the end of the hunt. So I've participated in that all 4 years. It's been really fun, and even though again it doesn't matter, it doesn't matter when it comes to jobs, when it comes to grades, but it's something that I'm very, very immensely passionate about, and I think that's great. Yeah, so next, sorry, okay, essays. So here are our essay questions. They don't usually change between year to year, so yeah, like they probably won't change next year. So these are the essay questions that MIT asks. Contrary to some other schools, I don't think we use the Common App essay questions. So these are, instead of one or two really big essays, we have a couple of shorter essays. So just be wary of the limit of words that each essay has, because I remember when I was writing this, I wrote down my first answers and then realized that they were like much more they're way too long compared to what I really needed to make them into. So just make sure that you make it concise and meaningful. Yeah, so I will go through a couple of these and what I wrote personally, I guess, like kind of in high level. But keep in mind that you should write about whatever speaks true to you, because one thing I tell a lot of people who do write these essays is that admissions officers have seen a lot of essays. I think there's a good chance they'll know if you're just like writing something because you think it'll get you in and not because it truly speaks to you. So just remember that like you are a very unique person. Just write whatever speaks to you. Whatever works for you is not what's going to work for anyone else, and that's fine. Yeah, so for example, for me, the first one, something that I did simply for the pleasure, I did actually write about running. I wrote about like, like I used to live in a place where like there was this particular rock outcropping, and I would like run to it every day and like run at night, sometimes run at 4 a.m. So it was very serene, and I write about that experience. I personally wrote about biology in the major one. Again, I did not end up actually declaring biology, so that's not binding at all. Like you can declare whatever you want when you get here. They just want to see that you have some sort of academic like direction, and they want to see what it is. Yeah, so for the third one, something that I contributed to the community, I wrote about playing piano, volunteering to play piano for a church in my area. So I have played competitive piano for a while before university. I stopped once I got to MIT because I didn't have enough time, but music has always been a big part of my life. And for example, at MIT, once I stopped piano, I actually joined an a cappella group. So I was able to continue my love for music via singing. Yeah, and next we have a form, sorry, not a form, we have a section for activities. So this is when we value quality over quantity. So don't like list everything that you've ever done, list the 4 most meaningful things that you've done. Yeah, so basically don't submit just your entire resume. We value quality over quantity when it comes to these activities. I think I forgot exactly what I submitted for the top 4, but some things that I did in high school that really jumped to mind is I did Science Bowl, which is a science competition where it's like Jeopardy style contest where you buzz to answer questions. So my team actually won nationals for Ocean Science Bowl my 4th year of high school. So that was really cool, and that was something that I have done since 5th grade, like since beginning of middle school. So that was one of the things that took up most of my time in high school. I think I probably also wrote about piano. I'm assuming I played piano, competitive piano, since until end of high school. Something else, I was on varsity tennis for 4 years, so I wrote about that. I was captain for the last 2. What else did I do? And something else I did was like, I mean, some other random things I did. One of which I probably wrote about was I was like president of like the math club of Quiz Bowl, which is similar to Science Bowl, but specific, not specific to science, but for like things like history, literature, also science, pop culture, things like that. Yeah, so again, quality over quantity for this part. But yeah, like you can submit a resume. Sorry, you can fill out the activity form and submit a supplemental resume, but don't submit a resume instead of that activities list because that's not what they're looking to see. Yeah, so to sum up all of what I said, essentially, I think Stu puts it better than I would. We want young people to be students and community members first and applicants second. So we want more so to see that you will be a positive impact to the community and to your fellow peers rather than like the perfect academic applicant, to be honest. So yeah, just like make sure that you seem human when you are writing your essays and when you are writing your activities. This portfolio part is definitely not a requirement. Just like do this if you have something that fits the portfolio format. So for example, if you've done research in high school, you can submit that research supplement. If, for example, for me, I played piano, so I submitted some recordings of myself. If you've composed a piece, also submit that. If you dance or if you act or design, submit like some of your work. If you write, also submit that. So this is kind of just so that if you do have works that showcase your creativity, the admissions people can see beyond just you explaining what you did. Similarly, visual art and architecture. Yeah, like if you have like performance art or if you have like design, submit those. Makers, MIT has a very strong maker culture. We have a lot of like labs where you can do like 3D printing and like laser cut and things like that. So if you do already have maker experience and you want to showcase that, that's like definitely something that you should show us. Yeah, like I personally got maker trained and I knew nothing about how to make things initially. So MIT is really welcoming to our beginners about almost every discipline, especially if it's something, for example, regarding making where it does help to have like a mentor. They'll really make sure that you are well prepared, even if like you're not mechanical engineering or anything that will ever require making for your degree. Yeah, so for the interview, what to expect. So typically they range, I think mine was around 50 minutes, I would say, but they can range between 30 minutes to 2 hours. So don't stress out if it seems short or if it seems long. It's usually quite informal. They just want to get to know a bit more about yourself. So don't stress out too much. Don't dress up too formally, just like dress normally, appropriate to the place where you are going to be interviewed. Again, like if it's like Zoom, just like, you know, wear something slightly nice on top. Yeah, and just like be sure to just like be prepared to like talk about yourself and your experiences and probably why you want to apply to MIT, because they'll probably want to know that. And make sure that you do think of some questions that you want to ask your interviewer, because it's not just a one-way street. We also want to know, we want to know that you know that MIT is a good fit for you. So if you have some questions about MIT, definitely ask those to your interviewer. Yeah, how does the application process work? So yeah, basically just after you submit it, what happens between submitting it and receiving your decision. So it's every single application is read by an admissions officer And everything is very holistic. I'm assuming we really do take a lot of time in reviewing these applications. And we take the strong applications and bring them to admissions committee. So yeah, like there's a lot of time, a lot of effort that comes into deliberating every single application. So I know it seems like quite some time in between submitting it and getting a decision, but I assure you that is so that we really do all we can to make sure that we aren't taking into effect like any biases or anything like that, and we're giving everyone as fair of a shot as possible. Yeah, again, we want this to be very student-centered. We don't want biases or preferences or like familiarity to bias this whatsoever. You're not in a disadvantage if you already have some like really good students from your school who are already applying. You're not in a disadvantage if like, oh, like my state or my province already sent like this many students, things like that. We don't consider like legacy or things like that. So if your parent goes to MIT, like that shouldn't really help or hurt your application at all. So we try to make it as fair as possible.